Welcome back to part 4. In part 3, I was ranting about the Hashish Club in Paris in the 1840s and just sort of pondering about the hijinks they must have gotten up to. And it could be a symptom of that FOMO thing or the fact that we're still in a crushing pandemic, but my mind boggles at the thought of what must have gone down, right? And here conveniently is an account of it. Woo. Théophile Gautier wrote about the club in Revue des Deux Mondes in February 1846, where he described his first visit. Quote, one December evening, obeying a mysterious summons, drafted in enigmatic terms, understood by affiliates but unintelligible for others, I arrived in a distant quarter, a sort of oasis of solitude in the middle of Paris that the river, surrounding it with its two arms, seems to defend against the encroachments of civilization. It was in an old house on the island of Saint Louis, the Hotel Pimodan, that the Bazaar Club, of which I was a member, recently held its monthly sittings. Unquote. While he is often cited as the founder of the club, in the article Gautier says he was attending their seances for the first time that evening and made clear that others were sharing a familiar experience with him. He writes on that members were, quote, ritualistically garbed in Arab clothing. They drank strong coffee, liberally laced with hashish, which Moreau called dawamask in the Arabic manner. It looked, reported the members, like a greenish preserve, its ingredients a mixture of hashish, cinnamon, cloves, nutmeg, pistachio, sugar, orange juice, and butter and cantharides. I looked that up. Clearly, I don't know what cantharides are, and they are another term for Spanish fly. Some of them would write of their stoned experiences, although not all. Balzac attended the club but preferred not to indulge. Though sometime in 1845 the great man cracked and ate some, he told fellow members he had heard celestial voices and seen visions of divine paintings. Unquote. Baudelaire wrote a short book in 1860 on hash and opium, Artificial Paradises, Le Paradis Artificiel. The Paris Review reprints an excerpt of one section, The Poem of Hashish, not in fact a poem but a descriptive essay, translated by Aleister Crowley, another writer whose experiments with chemical excess contributed to some of the strangest books written in English. Crowley, if you will, could be called a lot of things, and that actually could take up an entire episode of this podcast. But for now, here is an excerpt of the Crowley translated The Poem of Hashish. Those who have indulged in their own cannabis experiments, legally or otherwise, will surely recognize the poetic accuracy of his hash portrait. So perfect that it's hard to believe he didn't partake at least once or twice at the All-Star Club des Hashishins. Quote, hashish often brings about a voracious hunger, nearly always an excessive thirst. You're telling me. Can we pause for a moment and focus on how amazing food tastes while on some ganja? Pro or con, I don't know. Such a state would not be supportable if it lasted too long, and if it did not soon give place to another phase of intoxication, which in the case above cited interprets itself by splendid visions, tenderly terrifying, and at the same time full of consolations. This new state is no longer the whirlwind or the tempest. It is a calm and motionless bliss, a glorious resignedness. Since long you have not been your own master, but you trouble yourself no longer about that. Pain and the sense of time have disappeared. Or if sometimes they dare to show their heads, it is only as transfigured by the master feeling, and they are then, as compared with their ordinary form, what poetic melancholy is to prosaic grief.